deep to left center field. Back it goes and gone. The 0-2 pitch. He struck him out swinging at 101. Swinging a drive, left field and deep. Back it goes and gone. And the Twins walk it off again.
It is Friday at 9:35, which means we're joined by the voice of the Minnesota Twins on Bally Sports North. Cory Provus joins us. His segments are sponsored big time now by Welton's Tire Service out of Lisbon. We appreciate their sponsorship, and it's great to see Cory. I was gone last week, and the Twins and the Mets collided. That's my team. The Mets got them the first two games, and the Twins got them on Wednesday. Now back home and back on TV, which I'll get to in a second. But here we go. It's August. The deadline's passed. This is the fun time now for the next 2 months.
So years ago, you think of August, and there's that saying about the dog days, right, in August. And I said that on the air when I was in Milwaukee with Euchre, and we went to commercial break, and he looked at me with like laser beams coming out of his eyes. He's like, "Hey, these aren't the dog days. Playing baseball. We're in a booth. We're just calling the game. Let's not do that." So I haven't referred to this month as in that way ever since. What I view this stretch, and I think it really comes into play in September, but that cliche that, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Well, that you start picking up the pace now a little bit more. I think that the jog you had going, to keep that pace is one thing, but now you start to pick it up a little bit more. And there's more meaning behind these games because Cleveland is showing no signs of slowing down. Kansas City is among the hotter teams going the game, right? They've come out of this All-Star break just crushing the ball, scoring runs, beating everybody. They look great. So these games that start tonight against, historically, perhaps the worst team since 1961.
Whew.
That's the pace the White Sox are on right now, is to lose more games than your beloved 1962 New York Mets, by the way. That's the pace that they're on right now. They're 9-1 against Chicago, which is fantastic, but boy, you can't lose them. You can't lose them with Joe Ryan tonight, Bailey Ober, and then hopefully Sim on Sunday. These are important games because of how poorly the White Sox are playing, and it's not like the other guys and the other teams in the Central are slowing down at all.
And this stretch, Cory, starts here tonight with the White Sox, then the Cubs at Wrigley, and then it's the Guardians with a doubleheader thrown in, and the Royals. So this is a monstrous stretch for the next 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of divisional play coming up here, and we haven't had much of that lately, so now we're getting back into it. Take out the Cubs series, like you said, that starts on Monday in Chicago. But yeah, a lot of divisional play, and the Twins have done okay. The Twins have done fine within the division, outside of Cleveland. They're 0-5 against Cleveland, but boy, those 4 games, and I think the crowds will be good this weekend too, especially tomorrow with Mauer. With Joe being on hand, honoring his Hall of Fame induction. So I think that will be a big gathering. But I hope that Cleveland series is the loudest the Target Field has been all year. And that starts a week from today. But first things first, focused on these next 6. But then, up until this point, the biggest series of the season begins next week.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. That Diamond and Comcast came to an agreement that the Twins are back on TV starting tonight. I mentioned this. It's at a different tiered package for viewers in the Twin Cities and up here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Regardless, it's a great thing they're back on. Now people got to find them, but 3 months is a long time. I guess if glass half full guy, Cory, I'd say, all right, it's the best 2 months to watch the team starts basically now.
I didn't think they would come to a resolution. That's how
I did too.
That's how angry it seemed like, and how bitter the two sides were, and not the Twins here. This is Bally or Diamond and Comcast. I didn't see a resolution coming between these two parties, so they found a way to figure it out, and I'm glad they got there because yes, they have deprived Twins fans from following this team. And it's been a fun team to follow. It's a young team. It's an exciting team, some great ups and downs, some great performances. And yet a significant chunk of our fan base of Twins territory has not been able to watch their beloved team. So, a wrong was righted in some ways, better late than never. So yes, I know there's still some financial concerns about making it all happen, but at least the games are back on cable. And that's certainly good news and great news that starts tonight.
Do you feel that's connected to attendance as well, that people haven't come because the games haven't been on locally?
Yes, I think it's all intertwined. I think
Hmm.
that's why the Twins did not do well in the All-Star voting, in the fan voting. I think that there was so much anger and disappointment about how this whole thing is gone. How about this whole thing is gone? And I don't fault fans for that one bit. They are absolutely right to be mad.
Yeah.
This has been a disaster. This has been just an absolute disaster. And why we got here, how we got here, that's not for me to say.
Yeah.
That's for other people above me to kind of, lay out for you. But it's awful. It was just awful that a huge part of what people rely on for their summer was taken away from them. Nothing that they did wrong,
Yeah.
nothing that they had control over. I just hope that people don't blame, like the people. I work with so many talented men and women with Valley Sports locally here in town, from people you see on TV to people you'll never see, but just work in the truck, work in the studio, cameras, sound, graphics, you name it. They have nothing to do with any of this. This has nothing to do with any
Yeah.
of them. And for those that say I can't, I wish Bally would just go away and be done with it. These are jobs. These are people that are employed by Bally, by Diamond. And if these just go away, where do these people go for work? I mean, this impacts a lot of people. So don't blame them. They had nothing to do with it, zero. But again, I'm thrilled that we got here. But to your point, I think it's absolutely connected. That
Yeah.
fans have just probably unplugged from Twins baseball because of the anger and how challenging it's been to be able to follow their favorite team. So again, I don't fault the fans one bit.
And the Twins aren't alone in that. Obviously, there's 13 other franchises that were blacked out as well. I haven't done that research on it, if it affected attendance of those other cities either. You've been around. And did you notice for other teams that were blacked out that did it hit them at the gate as well?
My understanding is that Comcast is a significant chunk of our market. What that number is, anywhere from 60 to 70%. That I think is fluctuating a little bit. That encompasses all of Twins
Right.
territory. I think of the other teams. I think the Braves and I believe the Tigers were the other two whose outreach relies on Comcast, whose linear cable provider is through Comcast. Now, Atlanta's attendance, not one bit, because that new ballpark is beautiful. That area around the ballpark that they call the Battery is just
Hmm.
awesome. They're selling out every game. They're just printing money in there because the team owns all that development area outside the ballpark. So they're doing fine. The Tigers' attendance isn't great because the team is bad. I think
Right.
that plays into it, but I absolutely believe there is a connection with the Twins. I think they're 23rd, 24th in attendance. And I think a lot of it has to do with fan angst and fan anger with how this whole thing was handled. And they have every right to be upset. And I think because of that, not many have been showing up on a consistent basis. Now, the last homestand out of the All Star break, great
Yep.
crowds. I think the opponent had a lot to do with that. Milwaukee fans travel really well, of course, to Target Field, and then Philly fans coming here for the first time since 2016. That was a big deal. So now I'm curious with tonight. The worst team in baseball in town. Looks like a beautiful night after all the rain we had. The weather looks great this weekend. So tonight to me is because I think tomorrow is going to be good with
No
Joe.
doubt. Yeah.
But then tonight, I'm curious how the crowds are going to come out tonight.
Also, it didn't help Twins fans' mood on the trade deadline that there wasn't a big, huge move there. It was kind of tipped off on what they were going to do. Were you looking for another move? I guess what for the pieces what they have, knowing pitching wise where they're at. Did you anticipate a move, or were you not surprised when what went down?
No, I did. I thought they would make some moves, and I was surprised that they didn't. And then that was my initial reaction. Then hearing all the reports and articles and quotes afterwards, it seemed like the pieces that the Twins wanted were just not really obtainable because of the prospect capital that they were going to have to
Right.
part ways with. Jason Stark writes for the Athletic, and he's one of my favorite writers to follow in the game. And he had a quote, he had a story, I believe, yesterday, or the day before, and in that story. J.J. Cooper, who writes for Baseball America, had a point in the article saying that of all the trades that happened this deadline, per Baseball America, not a single top 100 prospect moved.
Wow.
I can't remember the last time that
Hmm.
happened. That not a single, and the Twins have six. The Twins have 6 prospects right now within the top 100. That's among the most of any team in the game. But take the Twins out. No team parted ways with a Baseball America top 100 prospect. That to me was shocking. And then I think that backs up some of the points that it just was hard to move. It was hard to move guys, and I thought there might be some major league players that the Twins were going to have to part ways with, but I think the asking price was too high. So yes, I think it was surprising, disappointing. It's 2 straight trade deadlines. It didn't work out. Now last year the Twins did fine, not making any moves, but it's been quiet.
Yeah.
The offseason was quiet. Trade deadline the last couple of years were quiet. It's just kind of blah. It's just kind of all right, great. It just so my expectations now for all these times in the calendar are pretty much lowered because the winter meetings to me, I have a whole issue with the winter meeting. I think it's the biggest waste of time. I think it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
I'm what a the biggest headline of the winter meetings was the fact that Milwaukee signed Jackson Churio and I think the Tigers signed Colt Keith. That's what we took away from it. So I think it's a big waste. That's my 2 cents on it.
The division made some moves. Anything eye-opening there with Cleveland or what Kansas City did?
Yeah, I love their moves. I thought Cleveland needed offense. They got Lane Thomas from Washington,
Yep.
outfielder, great pickup. I love with Kansas City. I think getting Lucas Ursig was great move. I mean, because he's not a rental. They got him for 5 more years. That's
Yeah.
a power arm in the back end of that bullpen. He was setting up for Mason Miller. Sometimes he was closing. I think that was a great pickup for Kansas City. Now they parted ways with one of their better prospects. But again, it wasn't a top 100 guy.
Yeah.
I was surprised Kansas City made as many moves as they did because going into the year, they had the worst farm system in baseball, like ranked 30th in baseball. And I thought, like, man, how are they going to make some moves? But they did it,
Yeah.
with Michael Lorenzen and Hunter Harvey earlier in the year. Getting back to the Twins here, and Dan Hayes, he's really locked in all this stuff, and he writes for the Athletic and covers the Twins. And I think he said the Twins were in on Yusei Kikuchi at some point, but then when he went to Houston, I think the Astros, gave up a lot, to get Kikuchi, and we'll see how that plays out. They gave up some big league players. There's nothing in the CBA that says you have to wait until July 30th at 5:50 to make a move. I mean, you can go earlier,
Yeah.
and that's always something I'm like, why wait for the market to set? Why wait for the market to just say, okay, it's really the asking price is high, but was it the same? Was it the same 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
a month ago? I don't know. There's more value. Yeah, you might be giving up a little bit more, but if you're acquiring a guy, I mean, you say Kikuchi is going to be a free agent. He's got 2 months, right? He's got 2 months left, maybe what, 9 starts, 10 starts. Why not get it 5 more? So I just think that there's times where I'd wish teams, certainly the Twins, maybe go earlier, strike earlier, and maybe it plays out. I don't know. So that's yeah, I thought it was lackluster, and Trevor Richards makes sense. I mean, getting a righty that has reverse splits and can miss left-handed bats, that makes sense. But I certainly thought the starting pitcher was going to be on this team at the deadline.
The addition of Randy Dobnak, how big a deal is that? Is that a big move there? Is a consequential, maybe is a better phrase to ask on that.
I don't know if it's a big move. I think it's a bulk arm. I think it's a guy that, just to give you some length, give you some protection after what happened on Monday and a lopsided
Right.
loss. And that made sense. I mean, to get a guy, have a long man, if you will, in the pen this time of year, yeah, that makes sense. So would it shock me if he gets a start at some point? No. I mean, watching, Simeon here and watching David Festa, these are rookies, going to be relied on to throw some big games, some
Yep.
big games down the stretch here a little bit in terms of their innings limits. I'm sure there's a number that is out there. What that is, I don't know. But to have some more protection to provide some length out of the bullpen made sense.
Let's break. We come back. Much more on the 17-game losing streak of the White Sox as they're coming to Target Field tonight, and chat about the second half of the real stretch run that begins tonight. Back with Cory Provus right after this. On here on this Friday morning, Twins and White Sox tonight at Target Field, 7 o'clock. Joe Ryan will get the start for the Twins. Somebody called Davis Martin will be pitching for the White Sox, who've lost 17 games in a row. Back with Cory Provus. His appearance is brought to us by Welton's Tire Service. Do you know who Davis Martin is? You're calling the games, and I don't know if you know who this guy is.
I do. Yeah, he's homegrown. He was a homegrown player
Okay.
that the White Sox drafted. He's been banged up. He's coming back from Tommy John surgery, so that's why his path has been derailed. But like him and like so many right now with this team, if you're young, if you got a chance,
Right?
you're gonna get an opportunity to play. And for I think that's the motivation for any of these players right now is to prove that. I mean, the White Sox are going to change their team. I think drastically. They have to change their team drastically for 2025. But are you a part of the solution? Are you a part of the rebuild? Are you a stopgap kind of position piece right now? And that I think that's the motivation is that you play well and you prove to the front office that hey, I want to be here. I can be here. I can be a spark plug to help this thing turn around eventually because there's not much that's gone right. Nothing
No.
has gone right for this team. I mean, seeing Garrett Crochet, I think, emerge has been a welcome sight. When Luis Robert Jr. is healthy, he's still a really good player. But I was stunned that Garrett Crochet
Yeah.
wasn't traded.
Yep.
I thought it was. I didn't love how his stance. I had an issue with, and I get it. It's his career.
Yep.
He's had some injuries. He's young. He's coming back, but he hasn't yet earned the right to set the market for himself. There's a system in place that this is how the system is. And whether that's good or not, you have to work with your union on that. And I thought he put his team in a bad spot where all of a sudden, and I didn't buy it. If he was traded, say, to the Yankees, say Garrett Crochet went to the Yankees,
Yep.
he wasn't given a contract extension. You mean to say that he was going to go into that clubhouse and he was going to look Aaron Judge in the face and say, "Hey, I'm not going to pitch in October"? Really? Really? How's that going to go?
Not well.
I don't know. I was like, call his bluff. I
Yep.
mean, I think he's going to get traded in the offseason, and maybe that was all part of it, that it came together too late, and this all came about in an odd way. But that struck me as odd. So he's going to face the Twins on Saturday. He's not pitching very deep. They're watching his innings. He's maybe going to go one time through the order, and then after that, the White Sox will adjust.
Yeah, that to me would have been a guy though that would have fetched a couple of those top 100 prospects you were talking about. Easy.
Yes. Yes. I mean, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And I wasn't surprised that Tarek Skubal did not get traded. That guy I think he's going to win the Cy Young Award. I mean,
He's really good.
He's
Yep.
got 2 more years of team control. If the Tigers, think that, this was just, it didn't click this year, but they build around him. They got 2 more years left. Now, if next season doesn't go well, then I think it's a different story because then you don't want to get into him being a rental.
Right.
That's going to change everything. Like the Twins were with Jose Barrios. Remember they traded
Yes.
him.
Yep.
Was still a year left before free agency. Then I think a year from now, if the Tigers are back to where they're at, then I think Scooble's going to be in play.
How big is this for you for this week? Got the White Sox and then the Cubs. You're going back to Wrigley Field early next week. How pumped are you for the next 6 games?
Wrigley's a special place for me. I mean, that's where I grew up. Ron Santo, the late great Ron Santo, to this day means the world to me. I would not have married my wife without Ron Santo. I moved back to Chicago and I joined WGN radio when I was 28, and the Cubs play all these day games, right? So Ronnie was always asking me about my social life. Who'd you go out with last night? What'd you do? I said, I went on a date. He said, I don't believe you. You probably went out with your brother. I said, my brother's married and he's got a kid. No, I went on a date. I want to meet these girls. I don't know these girls. That's how he talked, by the way. He's kind of, I know it really, that's what he sounded like. And then in 2008, my second year with the Cubs, I met in July 6th, 2008. I met this teacher in Chicago, and I told Ronnie, I said, yeah, I went on a date. She's really nice. He said, I want to meet her. I'm like, he met some other girls along the way, didn't like any of them. And then in August, I brought this teacher up to the booth in 2008. And he's like, that's the best one you've ever brought in here. And then I married her. So
there you go.
Because of that, I married my wife. But yeah, going back to Wrigley, I can't wait to see some friends on Monday.
The day I've been to a couple day games at Wrigley, there's nothing like it. And they're the only team that do it. There's a few that do it sporadically, but the fact that it's magical. It really is. In the summertime,
Yeah.
everybody, if you're a baseball fan, you have to go. You have to go at least once.
Oh yeah, the bleachers, the rooftops,
Yep.
the whole experience, and it's actually going to be the family trip. So a lot of Twins
Cool.
players are bringing their wives, their girlfriends, their kids. So getting a chance to be at Wrigley and see it and do the stretch and everything that is
Yep.
Wrigley Field. I even walk around the ballpark. I think it's a great place to go.
I know there's a ton of people excited to hear your voice and see you tonight on television up here in the Red River Valley. Thanks so much, as always, for the time. Have a great call tonight, and we'll see you next week, okay?
Thanks, Dom, and I'll be a bit more clean shaven. Okay, I'll be a little bit more clean shaven when I hit the air tonight. Okay.
Sounds good, bud. Good to see you. There he goes.
Thanks, Dom.
Cory Provus from Valley Sports North. Twins and the White Sox coming up tonight, 7 o'clock. It is City Connect Jersey night. Get a chance to see those again. And again, for those, and we appreciate Welton's Tire Service for their sponsorship of his segment. Just to remind everybody, before we go to break, that if you want to see the game tonight, the game are back on Midco. And actually, I'm going to run up to my office here in the next break. But it's on a different tiered package. So you may, if you flip on Bally during the commercial break and say, wait a minute, Dom, it's still blacked out. Well, it's on a higher tier package than it was originally. So if you upgrade or if you upgraded, you'll get it. If not, you're probably still getting the screen of death there that we've seen since May 1. That's the bottom line. We're overdue for a break. We'll take one now. We come back. One of NDSU's great all-time football players, Christian Dudzik, will join us in studio about returning to his alma mater. We'll do that when hour 2 of Hot Mike begins right after this.